Well, welcome everybody to the online program for the alumni of the Sunshine Coast Health Center up here in Powell River, BC. And it's time for a new topic. I thought we'd talk a little bit about what we can learn from research on therapy. The reason that I bring this one up is that we're going to be conducting a research project out here in the next little while. And so in order to do that by the rules of the game, we have to write a proposal and get it approved by the ethics committee and a bunch of other people. But part of this proposal is something called a literature review, right? And so one of the things we're looking at is how do people sort of gauge the effectiveness of therapy, which is what our little project's going to be about. And researchers actually have been looking at this for a long, long time. And it's interesting that some of the research that comes out of this is very helpful to people. That just you and I can look at this research and say, wow, that's what was effective in therapy. Then just look at yourself and say, geez, have I gone through this change as well? So, in this topic on what we can learn from the research, we'll give you 5 different ideas that have come out of the research. And the way you conduct research is different depending on what you actually want to find out. So it used to be in the old days, for example, we would rely on the psychologist as the expert. He would be the one who could tell change. And typically the change was there a change in personality? Right, so did this person's personality change, of which the psychologist would gauge this. This is Sigmund Freud, right? Yeah, you lie on the couch and Sigmund Freud, you do all the talking. Sigmund Freud just sits back and makes notes and analyzes you and then tells you what your problem is. But only the psychologist was considered competent enough to tell you about this. But in the new kinds of research, we actually listen to clients, and what the clients tell us is actually effective about their therapy. And so we've been collecting quite a bit of this research recently. So our little topic here, we'll just go through 5 things that basically the clients have helped us understand about what they found good for therapy. And you can think of this, therapy as treatment for addictions, and even what the alumni, what they've told us, very close to what the research has shown. All right. So one of the things that, one of the ways that we can look at this and gauge what therapy does for people is look at this idea of personality, and does personality change? Now, we're not actually going to look at the whole personality and see if it changes. That's what Sigmund Freud would do, but we're not so gung-ho. We look at what's called mid-level units of analysis. So, for example, a typical thing may be how open is someone to a new experience, right? Or coping styles is a pretty typical one. What is the coping style that someone will bring into, say, a hostile situation, right? And we have all these tests we can do, and they're all self-report tests, and you mark them all out, and we can look at it and say, oh, yeah, well, you're very open, or you're very introverted, or you're very neurotic, or you're very this, that, the other thing. And the coping style is the same kind of idea. So we can give that test to someone before they go into therapy, and then give that test to them after therapy, and just see if there's any change from before and after in these components of personality, and therefore we can gauge if there's a change. So some of the interesting things our alumni have told us, pretty typical, they will tell us, is, well, in recovery, I've become much more open to new ideas, much more open to new experiences. I don't try to shut things off or keep my mind closed. So that would be considered a change in the component of personality. Or someone who is very introverted, extremely shy, always withdrawn, might get out and get to know people and take a risk, go to an AA meeting and speak, right? Do things like that, and so that they become less introverted and more extroverted. And there could be a very noticeable change between what they told us before versus what they told us after therapy. So that'd be another typical one. Or another typical thing is, geez, I'd get angry, at anything, and now it actually takes quite a bit to get me angry. So again, that would be another typical example of a change in part of the personality. So that's one way that the research has found. But these ideas in recovery about being more open, less prone to anger, less impulsive, more willing to step back and have a look at things and play the tape out to the end, less introverted, right, and more willing to put themselves out there in public. These are all typical things that we hear from our alumni who are doing well in recovery. Anyway, something to think about. And we'll be back next time with another topic.